Welcome to the CI Chit Chat, everyone. Mitchell Hora here with you, and I'm the founder and CEO here at Continuum Ag. If you're new, we're talking CI, which is carbon intensity. And on the farm, we think of it as basically our carbon footprint per bushel. And hold on, I gotta get, on the farm, we think of carbon intensity as the carbon footprint per bushel. So essentially, all of the inputs going into producing a bushel of corn or soybeans divided by the yield. And that's important because our carbon footprint per bushel becomes part of the carbon footprint of whatever our bushels are going into. So especially in the case of biofuels, where we are taking a bushel of corn or soybeans, turned it into gallons of biofuel, our carbon footprint on the farm becomes a component of that fuel's carbon footprint. And that's important because of the 45Z tax credit. 45Z has been in law for just shy of 4 years. It was initially put into law with the Inflation Reduction Act, then extended with the Big Beautiful Bill, and they made some other modifications as well. But 4 years that this thing has been law, just about 4 years that we have been working on building the infrastructure to ensure that farmers and biofuel producers can work together when the time is right. And finally, we are getting some clarity to be able to make that a reality. And the key pieces that have came here recently is that the USDA just published their final rule about how to measure, report, and verify the carbon intensity of feedstock being used in biofuel. And they also put out an updated and final carbon intensity calculator. So a couple key updates on that for folks. So this new carbon intensity calculator, we've got it getting it integrated fully into Topsoil. You'll be able to access it there for free on our software. It's at topsoil.ag. The tricky part is it also includes a new T-Disc calculator, which is what we're going to talk about a lot here later. And I've got my guest here, Dale from our sales team, is going to help walk us through some examples on the T-Disc calculator because there was a bunch of questions about it last week. I wanted to talk about that. But before we get to that, I wanted to share some of the latest policy updates and then some updates on our conversation with biofuel plants as well. So the USDA rule came out 3 weeks ago Friday. We've taken some time to digest and let the dust settle from the rule just a little bit, and then we met with the leadership at USDA on Friday. So the folks that we met with were in the office of the chief economist. They were the ones that were putting the actual pen to paper, writing this rule, overseeing the process. Very, very insightful to talk to them about how do we navigate the T-Disc calculator? And we've got a pathway to be able to do that, where if we have questions, we're able to ask them and have that open dialogue. So if farmers are, have unique tillage practices or we have questions, we've got a process now to be able to get those questions solved. If we asked them about the nutrient management plans and just other components of evidence and got some great clarity as to how we are going to navigate that. But the other thing that I was asking them was about the timing and the certainty of integrating the USDA rule and feedstock calculator into the actual rules, because we've been getting some pushback from some of the ethanol plants and biofuel producers we've been talking with that are worried about the IRS and the Department of Energy actually integrating the rule. And I expressed this concern to the folks at USDA, and they said, no, we've got it taken care of. And part of why the USDA rule was a little bit delayed in getting across the finish line from OMB was because USDA was negotiating with these other folks, just herding the cats, making sure that the dominoes were lined up so that as that USDA rule gets done, Department of Energy has to update their 45Z CF GREET model and integrate a feedstock calculator, and the IRS has to write their final 45Z rule, which they have said now that they intend to have done in November. And so in order for the IRS to get their rule done and the DOE to update the calculator and integrate this USDA rule, they had to make sure that they're all in alignment. We've been reassured that they are, and that's all on track so that the farmers will be locked in for the actual final 45Z program here later this year. So some ethanol plants are going to continue to wait. They want to see the final T crossed I dotted, but we also have many other ethanol plants that are moving forward, ready to rock and roll. In particular, plants that some of them are even going to cover the audit fees. So there will be some of your plants that are going to let you know that, hey, they're rolling out a 45Z program. You can enroll in it, and they'll cover the cost of getting you verified if you wish to do so. Most of the plants aren't going to do that. Most of the plants are working with partners like Continuum and some of the other verifiers saying, hey, as long as you are verified by these guys, folks that we have approved, we'll accept your data into our program. And that's where most of the plants are going to be at with us, having those conversations with well north of 100 ethanol plants right now. Lots of moving parts there, and it's because it's mass balance that we're going to these ethanol plants and to their elevators saying, hey, we'll help recruit farmers into your program. We'll get them verified to the T of what the government said. The government just said, you got to get verified. They didn't demand who you need to be verified by. So, long story short on that, and then I want to pull it over to Dale. And of course, toss in any questions that you have too. Looks like there are some starting to come in. How you go about this as a farmer is, number one, you need to get your updated CI score. You'll be able to do that on topsoil. If you really want, you can line up a meeting with Dale or David or somebody in our office. We're happy to run your score for you and get you that updated number. But the key is, know what your updated score is, and if it's low enough that it'll move the needle and there could be some money involved, then you want to consider moving forward, pursuing getting that score verified. However, because it's mass balance, your 2025 crop needed to end up in the biofuel supply chain. So folks that have a low CI score and delivered crop into the biofuel supply chain, 45Z is for you. And a tremendous amount of the plants I really think will have programs. Some might skip out on their 2026 fuel production year, therefore skip out on 2025 crop. But I think those are going to be not the majority. I think the majority of plants are like, yep, we're going to be ready to rock and roll, get 2025 crop part of our 2026 45Z program. And farmers need to be verified. That was laid out in the rules. You got to have your biofuel feedstock reports at the field level. That's what we do. So things very much moving forward. But if you are talking with your ethanol plant and they don't have the details sorted out yet, or they say, I'm not sure if we're talking to Continuum or not, send them our way. If your elevator is a major player in selling into biofuel, they also have to go through verification every year. And if they need help doing that, send them our way. We're happy to help those elevators or ethanol plants. And keep in mind, sometimes the elevator may just be digital as well, not a physical location that actually takes your corn. If you're selling through a broker or through a buying group, that first point of aggregation, the first people to take ownership of your grain, it doesn't say physical control of your grain, it says ownership. The first people to take ownership of your grain may need to be involved here as well. So anyway, keep us posted on your supply chain stuff. We will have lots of announcements, lots of material coming out over the coming weeks and months as ethanol plants are announcing some of their programs and many of them accepting data coming from us. And if you are selling into one of those ethanol plants and your CI score is low enough, like below a 22, 24, definitely below a 20, you're in a really nice spot. The lower the better, of course. But if you are in one of those positions, this could be awesome. Really, really awesome. I'm excited. It's coming together. It's slower because it's mass balance, but it's okay. It's going to work out. Real quick question here. Any concerns that USDA staff, the reorg or loss is going to make getting more answers difficult and impact the rollout of all this now? No indication of that. And these folks, these are career people in DC. in the office of the chief economist. So they're, at a local level, yeah, they're cutting back on folks, but the local folks are not involved in the actual 45Z process at all. You don't have to do any. You don't have to. Your local NRCS office is not part of the actual 45Z process at all. Sure, they may help. If you want to go back and get old planting records from last year, or working with your local crop insurance folks or RMA to get crop insurance records and stuff. Yeah, having people there, may be helpful in getting some of those old records, but hopefully most of them you already have digitally. If you're docu-signing all of those documents, which it's definitely on my NRCS office has been for years. I'm just docu-signing everything, so I've got it all in an email, pretty easy, and but also it's just pulling a file. So, but the USDA folks in DC, these are career folks that everything should be moving forward, and the USDA piece is done. Like, all it takes is somebody that continues to kind of pester the Department of Energy and the Treasury saying, hey, we got this rule, make sure you get it in there. And so that's all that's really needed from the USDA side of things, is just helping to get this across the finish line in DC. Again, they have overly emphasized to us they got this, and they'll let us know if they need help or if things start falling off the rails a little bit. But we will see. Okay. Without further ado, let me toss it over to Sale Dale. We want to talk on T-Disc calculator a little bit. Dale's been on the show before, but by means of a quick intro, Dale's on our sales team, talking with thousands of farmers, answering all these questions on all these different nuances of their tillage practices and fertilizer applications and cover crop applications. And this new T-Disc calculator is kind of it's clunky, to say the least, and a new tool that the gist of the T-Disc calculator is that you plug in your tillage practices and plug in your passes across the field, and it spits out whether you are no-till, reduced till, or conventional. That's its purpose. Take all of your soil disturbing practices and categorize you into one of those three things. We're going to do that for you on topsoil. And it's complicated, so it's taken a little while, but it's just about done, just about pushed out there, and we'll handle it for you. But it is tricky, and there are some weird items to it. And again, meeting with the folks at USDA last week who developed this thing, we've got their ear and an inroad to be able to get our questions answered, particularly if we come across a farmer that isn't just plug and play into this calculator, because the practices are, of course, a set pick list of practices. And so we'll help you determine how you get categorized if you don't just easily fit into the program. But Dale, yeah, why don't you pull up the actual calculator and just show everybody, just so they can kind of see how it works. But maybe Dale, as you're doing that, why don't you give kind of an overview of, like, just in general, how does this tool work? And then let's run a couple scenarios so people can see it. And Again, it'll be automated within topsoil, so don't get too hung up about it. But there was just a lot of questions about T-Disc when we were on the Chit Chat last week.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on, Mitch. And like you said, I'm on our sales team. Talked with a bunch of you as we're going through all this stuff. And like Mitch said, the T-Disc is definitely clunky. Basically, like Mitch alluded to, T-Disc is how we quantify, we get it from what your actual tillage implement is into a quantifiable value that we can assign to conventional till, reduced till, or no till. It's actually timing based as well. And we actually need to take each pass across the field in these different timing buckets, and then it adds them together if it's in the same window. For example, if you're doing anhydrous application and a tillage pass in the fall, we have to include both of those because that could bump you up to the next bucket, those types of things. So I can share the T-Disc here and show you guys what we're working with.
Yeah.
So this is what the, can you guys see that all right? Mitch, can you see that?
It's pulling up. There you go.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome. So here's the T-disc. And as you can see, it wants you to put in all of these different practices across the board. And then we have a list of, these are kind of trade names, quote unquote, of what we're working with. There's like 200 in some of them. And then it tells you what to port that over to. And as Mitch mentioned, some of the nuanced type of tillage practices are going to be important to get some clarity on. We already have some feelers out to the USDA on, how to quantify different things, strip till, but you're doing some different stuff there. We need some clarity on what a VT looks like and how we map that.
Yeah.
And that type of stuff. So
yeah, but the key of it is the implement mapping thing that you had there.
Yeah.
The column, the column on the left is what we have to basically give the farmers all of those different like options now in topsoil. And as you can see, there's a gazillion different nuances, and some of them not necessarily used hardly at all in Midwest corn soybean production. And then there's other things like a vertical tillage tool, not even on the list. So that's, again, where we have to work with them to figure out the items that are on the list. You pick your practice in column B, and then you plug into the tool the item in column C. And it's just a mapping of that. But again, what we're doing is now we have a pathway with USDA. If your specific practice isn't in that list of column B, we now have a process as to how we're supposed to navigate getting the pick list item from column C.
Yep. And just to give you guys an example of some kind of the nuanced things here. This wants to work. Of course it doesn't.
There you go.
Oh, I got to do that first.
Yep. So first, the timing must be chosen. So before, timing of your tillage didn't really matter in the old calculators. Now it does. So now we have to have the timing, but it's all, but Dale, correct me if I'm wrong, the tillage window timing is all relative to your planting date.
Yep.
So it's not even just that easy as like, oh, it's November 15th, it's this number, or it's March 10th, it's this one, like, oh yeah, there you go.
Yep. So, you could see 1 day after harvest to 56 days before planting would be preparation. And then 55 to 7 days before planting. And then, at planting can be up to 6 days. So the important thing to note as we're going through this is that, let's say you're, putting in on cover crop, for example, the next day after harvest, and then putting on anhydrous, right before planting. Those are in two different buckets, right? So they and as I go through some examples here, you'll see these values over here change, and that will affect what the bucket is. And what this takes is it takes the highest intensity across the board and applies that to that crop. So just for example here, we can put in some anhydrous, obviously not doing too much soil disturbance there. We can do the same thing with a cover crop application. This drill, and you can see some interesting names here for what we're working with. And then you can see, actually, let's get this into the same deal here.
Planter, drill, no-till, min-till. Like,
yes. Very specific.
What is that supposed to be? Well, specific, but it also like combines, like a planter and a drill are not the same thing.
Right.
No-till and min-till are not the same thing.
Right. And then, talking about that, so we go there, and then let's just say we go straight to planting. Then we go to planting no-till. So And there's all of these kind of different options that we have here. I know that we had been getting a bunch of questions about a strip till and what that looks like.
Yeah, let's go back and run a strip till one. But okay, so
Yeah.
walk us through what do we got here? So we had a fertilizer application in the fall.
Yep.
Then we had cover crop going on in the
Yep.
fall as well in the same
Correct.
timing window.
Yep.
And so it's fertilizer and cover crop, and the cover crop went on with a drill.
Yep.
Then you came back and planted. That's no till,
Yep. Yep.
which
That's
makes
so.
that makes sense to me.
Yep.
And I missed it. The fertilizer was just broadcast, or how was the fertilizer applied?
This is knife anhydrous.
Oh, knifed in anhydrous. So this
Yep.
is cover crop drilled on, knifed in anhydrous, and then come back and plant.
Yep.
That's considered no-till.
Correct. Yep. So where it gets kind of funky, let's say we're doing keep in
Sorry, real
anhydrous.
quick question
Yeah.
for clarification. Does the location matter on this?
As far as
Does
like,
like doing the same program further north versus further south, does it change how it's
I
classified?
don't think so.
Spatial.
No,
Okay, there's not a county component.
I mean, we can see if that matters. I don't think it does though.
No,
Um,
we can play with it more later, but
yeah, for sure.
but the key so far for everyone, of course, has been, yeah, yeah, that didn't change anything. But
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that there was any differences on location or anything.
No.
But okay, so this is anhydrous, drilled cover crop, planter. Yeah, what if we change and do something different? So, and folks see the T-disc rating here gives a score of, in column J, it gives a tillage intensity of NT, which is no-till. And yeah, those it looks at all those different tillage windows and it chooses the highest one. Is that right,
Yep.
Dale?
Yep. Yep.
So it looks at, here's all of your different tillage windows, and whichever intensity, the TW index, whichever one of those is the highest, that's what it plugs in.
Yep. And then these are the values for how high that number can go before you get kicked into the next bucket.
Okay.
So, but going to a type of, we can just assume strip till here. And so here's this kind of, where we need to get a little more clarity and specificity on what we're actually trying to accomplish, right? Because many of you have strip till bars with coulters and strip till bars with coulters and shanks and, fertility or not. But, just using it by its, what we deduce is strip till. This bumps you up to reduced tillage. Right now, there's potential that, if you're using more of a coulter machine with row cleaners and doing something like that, that your intensity can go down. We're working with the USDA on that. They were very open to feedback on stuff like this. So definitely something that we're going to continue to workshop.
Yeah, this is one that we'll definitely go and workshop with them because it doesn't line up to their intent. So all Dale chose here is one application. It's not even doing multiple things in that window. It was just doing strip till. And this is a very basic strip till thing. And it puts the farmer into a reduced till program, which isn't the end of the world, but still, like, in some areas, the difference between being reduced till and no-till is a big deal.
Massive.
And what's important and what I'm getting at here is in the written rules, in the technical guidance, they specifically said that strip till and other like fertilizer applications or manure or something, I forget exactly, but they made some specific call outs saying that those practices may still constitute as no-till. Like they specifically spent time and put words on the page saying that strip till and other practices may constitute as no-till. But what Dale's showing you right here is, well, no, it doesn't. Not in the calculator that you made. In the calculator, it says it's reduced till. So it's like the words on the page saying strip till can still be no-till, categorized as no-till, versus how the tool works, they don't line up. So these are the type of issues and anomalies that we have to now fight more battles on to say, hey, which one's it going to be? Are you going with the words on the page where you said that strip till doesn't necessarily immediately disqualify you from being no-till? Or are you going with your calculator, which strip till does disqualify you from being no-till? So anyway, those are the kind of things that we have to battle with.
Yep. And just polishing this one off, let's just say also adding a cover crop in here. The order of this doesn't matter. It's just whether we get this window here correct. Do the same deal there. The other piece of this that we need to be cognizant of is if you are like knifing in 32 side dress, that needs to be accounted for. In this after planting piece, and you can see that it bumps it down here into this next bucket. But like I mentioned, it just takes the worst one. So as long as your management practices after, or you can do whatever you want as long as you don't do something worse than whatever the worst one is, you can continue going down that path. So
I don't know if you've played with this, Dale, but just thinking out loud that if you were doing the same tillage like regime, but in each of the different windows,
yeah,
is there a window that's like worse than other windows?
I want to say that it does change it. We can try here. So let's just say see, this is the hard part about not having a VT thing in here. The one VT pass that we have in here that we need to get clarity on maps to Hora flex time. So we can just try and see. Obviously, that's like not at all the same thing, but we can just try that.
Like how Dale's been playing with this a lot, and even how long it takes for him to click around and find all these different things. And he's spent dozens of hours in this thing already over the last couple of weeks. Like we have to simplify this, and that's what we're doing within topsoil. But it's like, gosh dang, that is just so frustrating.
Yeah. So looks like it's not changing based on timing wise, but you could see that the side dress pass
was higher.
So that's what we take in this T-disc rating portion here.
Mike's asking about manure. Let's run a couple of manure scenarios.
Yep. So we got the manure injector that bumps you up to reduce tillage there. That's something that's interesting for sure.
And that was the other one that again was specifically called out in the written rules on the page. Said manure and like fertilizer and strip till wouldn't necessarily disqualify you from being no-till, but here it does. So those are the things we gotta clean up. So yeah, so Mike, I mean, long story short on that, at least this would have been fall manure injected. It doesn't say draglined or tanked on, or obviously, as all of us know, there's a gazillion different types of manure injecting equipment that disturb the soil drastically different across some of these different implements, and it doesn't factor in any of that. So but those are some of the nuances that we need to send over to them saying, hey, we disagree with how this categorizes, or hey, we don't think this maps correctly. And we have a path, I guess is what I'm telling you, Mike. We have a path with the USDA to be able to kind of make a case for a farmer to not necessarily be categorized as reduced till just point blank because they're applying manure.
Yep. And something to mention, I'll put Dave and I's contact information in the chat, but if you guys have a kind of nuanced type of tillage practice that you're doing that you think might be funky compared to the status quo, definitely want to hear about it and see if we can figure out what it maps to, or if that's something that we need to get clarity on. That'll be super beneficial for us to know and figure out what that actually looks like and how to quantify it and all that stuff.
Yeah, we'll likely have to have some type of a farmer intake to
Yep.
Continuum when you're on topsoil playing around with different tillage things or different scenarios, and you're like, what the heck? Like, this just bumped me from no-till to reduced-till, and just a path for you to be able to let us know so that we can investigate it further, figure out, make sure that it's correct, and then, as we said, also advocate for you in DC and with the USDA that some of these things, it doesn't make sense, like how we would quantify no-till on the farm versus some of these scenarios from this new clunky calculator. They don't actually match up, which is also why we've had to be a little slower in pushing this new USDA calculator out, because we're not even showing the USDA calculator here. This is the T-disc that feeds into the USDA calculator. And if we had farmers just choosing which practice are you, no-till, reduced-till, or conventional, as Dale's showing here, we might be wrong in some cases. We need to get that cleared up. And I think we will. It's just going to be some ongoing battles here and things we got to work through. So at least we'll be able to get that going now. So some of these things, like this scenario, or Mike, make sure that we go on to your actual topsoil account, plug in your actual detailed, full program, so that way we can communicate that back over to USDA saying, hey, this should not be categorized as reduced till, and it is. How do we get this fixed? So having all that in topsoil is going to be important for us. But Bob is asking, if you put fertilizer on with the strip in the fall, does that bump you? Fertilizer, strip till with or without fertilizer doesn't matter, does it?
So so we have here nutrient management, fertilizer application, strip till, but also you have Coulter, Precision, and Shank. Those are some questions that we have out right now. Because if you change this to Coulter, now we're back to no-till. So
really,
yeah. So and then
strip till with a Coulter strip till thing is no-till.
Correct.
But if you have a Shank, now it's
correct. Yep. And same goes with Precision, also no-till.
What is strip till Precision versus strip till Coulter versus strip till knife?
Great question. Yeah. So that's what we're looking. I need some textbook definitions of what the differences are there. But I mean, that's kind of the issue there. But yeah, because I mean, realistically,
what are the difference between these, and how are we supposed to categorize it?
Exactly. So
fun.
That's why, and of course, a lot of strip till bars are, everybody likes to make their tweaks to them and stuff, and not just an out of the box type of strip till. I mean, you can, but a lot of people have different ones, so that's the other piece.
I'm assuming likely what's going to have to happen in a lot of this is, again, if you have an argument against what topsoil or the T-disc is spitting out for you, if you have an argument against it, or if you have an implement that doesn't easily plug in, we need to know about it so that we can communicate with USDA and help figure out exactly how to categorize it and document that for our auditors. Part of that process may be, hey, we need a picture of this thing to explain to these folks in DC what we're talking about here. So we're talking specific model numbers and that kind of stuff. So model numbers so they can Google it and look it up. And I know that's how you've had to do a bunch of just Googling back and forth of okay, what the heck do they mean by this implement? And versus having a farmer's actual model number and stuff on that implement and trying to match them up as good as we can. But this is going to be a clunky deal. And again, on topsoil, the farmer does not have to deal with this T-disc at all. You don't have to deal with the actual USDA Excel sheet at all, which is also clunky. Plug it into topsoil, and it spits out both for you. We've got both of them integrated into it to try to simplify this as much as possible. But again, if you see hey, I disagree, we'll have to. Again, we just met with them on Friday to know how they want us to handle all these nuances. Now that we know, we'll have to build out some process for farmers to be able to also raise the red flag for us so we can go and pass along the anomalies and issues over to USDA.
Yep.
So interesting. Well, lots of nuances to this. And basically, long story short, again, as farmers, step one in all of this is now getting your updated score, which takes this funkiness of this tool factored into it. So it's slower and clunkier than what it was here just a couple weeks ago, but we'll have the system streamlined in topsoil. It's not going to be that hard. And so getting your score calculated, that's number one. Making sure that whoever's buying your crop, making sure they're on board. That's number two. And if they're not, we're happy to have those conversations with them because that's what I'm spending all my time doing, is talking with the elevators, talking with the ethanol plants, locking deals. And there's just shy of 200, well, between corn and soybeans, there's 250 biofuel producers in the country and like 5,000 elevators. So if we haven't talked to yours yet, send the right folks our way. We're happy to help make sure that you've got an easy inroad and path there. But it's going to be a process here for a while, but it's moving. It's moving. So anyway, with that, we do need to get back to work and get after it. We've got a full day here. So thanks everyone for coming on. Had a nice big group here today. If you have more questions on T-Disc and stuff, want to run some specific examples, send us a note over. You can contact sales at continuum.ag as well. That ends up going to Dale and David and our team here. So we're happy to run scenarios for you. And yeah, especially if you are an ethanol plant or an elevator, you can use our software and our system to simplify and streamline this whole process, to quantify and verify all the CIs for your farmers. We want to partner with you and make this a smooth sailing process. So anyway, with that, I think we're going to skip out on the Chit Chat next week. I'm out of town, but we'll confirm that later. Maybe we'll do something special next week. I don't know yet. But anyway, thanks everyone. We'll keep on rolling here. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Thanks everybody.